So real quick before this video gets started, I just wanted to thank you for watching the video and also say that I am aware my microphone quality is atrocious throughout the video. I tried to save it in post best I could, but by the time I got around to it, I'd already recorded, I had edited, and I realized I just couldn't do anything about the microphone quality, so I do apologize. I have been all over the place. I moved, started school again, changed my job schedule, set up all of this. Woo. So I really do apologize about the quality and the delay in the video. However, while it may not be the best quality, what I do say in the video I feel like is very important. It's very pertinent to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and where it's at right now. Coming from someone who loves and adores the movies, I have since I was like 7, 8 years old. I've been there since day one. I just wanted to give my honest thoughts and opinions on Secret Invasion. So please feel free to watch the video. Let me know what you think down below. As always, thank you so much and enjoy the video. On Wednesday, July 26th, Marvel Studios aired the 6th and final episode of their 9th, kinda 10th Disney Plus series Secret Invasion. And the episode sucked. In fact, it sucked so bad that I, who kind of liked the series, was soured on the rest of the season. I was in the minority that the first 4 or so episodes were actually somewhat okay, but then the last 2 episodes absolutely tanked the show for me. The overwhelming opinion of people who have and haven't seen the show is that it is another bad MCU Disney Plus show. And sadly, they aren't wrong. Now keep in mind, this is coming from somebody who absolutely adores the MCU. One of my first movie memories is watching the original Iron Man opening night with my dad. I have seen every single MCU movie except one on premiere night. I own multiple posters, figures, memorabilia, comics, you name it, of the MCU and its characters. To put it bluntly, as my friends tell me, I'm a massive MCU shill. I will like almost anything that they put out or find things to like about the stuff that they put out. I still think they have made some bad properties, I just find things that I like in them. The MCU got me into reading comic books and discovering a love for reading and writing that I still carry today. So this won't be a video exclusively hating on the MCU and its properties because I really don't. I love the MCU and I wanted to make this video to show a perspective from someone who loves and adores the Marvel Universe and its characters to show just how disappointing this series really was for me personally. I wanted to go over why Secret Invasion overall just doesn't work for myself and a lot of other people. As always, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so if you liked the series overall, great. I'm happy that you did, and I'm happy that you can watch something and enjoy it. Honestly, there's a lot more nuance involved with film and TV than people will realize. Stuff can be both bad and good, or have good properties in a horrible TV show. However, again, this is just my opinion. If you agree with me, let me know down in the comments below. If you disagree, again, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear everyone's opinion on the show if you've seen it or if you haven't. As always, spoilers will follow. As much as I'm going to tear the series apart in a few moments, I think it would be best if I gave it a little credit beforehand. There was, of course, some fun stuff in there, like Sonya Falsworth stealing every single scene that she's in. I think Olivia Colman gives a great performance. The slightly darker tone for the first few episodes really worked for me. I thought that the extra blood that they added in, it's not a lot, I know, very minute detail that I'm giving it here, helped a lot to kind of boost this spy tone that they were going for. A few performances, like Samuel L. Jackson in particular, and some of the backstory that they gave Nick Fury was really great. I also absolutely adored a few of the scenes between Nick Fury and Talos, and also Nick Fury and Rhodey in the first 3 or 4-ish episodes. There were some great moments, and the action and effects, again, in the first 4 episodes, were done pretty well, and I enjoyed the opener of the season with Everett Ross revealed to being a Skrull. I thought that reveal, the kill, and then the subsequent chase worked out really well. And I know that Samuel L. Jackson really loves playing Nick Fury and loves performing as him, and he tries his best here to elevate the character, but is just betrayed by the writing. Honestly, every single cast member here seemed very excited both in the show and in real life interviews to be a part of Secret Invasion and the greater MCU. However, they were just let down by the lackluster writing and directing of the show. There were a lot of issues with the show, leaving many disappointed and burned by MCU Disney Plus once again. Again, overall, the show really disappointed me. With the first few episodes of the show, I was actually defending it, saying that the show's biggest disservice was being named Secret Invasion and having the only similarity to the comic art of the same exact name was that it involved Skrulls. It also didn't help that the story was adapted much better by the animated TV show Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Shout out to that show if you haven't seen it. It's actually really freaking good and I recommend it. The secret invasion done in that show was actually set up throughout the 2 seasons it ran and was a massive storyline in the 2nd season, with characters like Captain America, Invisible Woman, Black Panther, Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, Wasp, Ant-Man, Madam Hydra, and Quartermain being replaced or appearing as Skrulls. This led up to a lot of exciting reveals, big twists, satisfying payoffs for long arcs, and well-written character choices, which ironically is exactly what was missing from the MCU version. Instead, the MCU version was billed and marketed as a political paranoia thriller, focusing on the political aspects of the Skrull invasion and making it a much smaller scale event. It didn't include characters like Captain America, Thor, Hulk, or Black Panther. Instead, it focused on Nick Fury and his Skrull friend/slave, Talos. Playing devil's advocate here, although I and many other comic book fans would have preferred a more straightforward adaptation of Secret Invasion, with multiple big reveals, twists, and turns, all focused on the major heroes of the MCU, I don't think that the political idea is bad at its core, that paranoia thriller. I know that that might be a cardinal sin to say, but picture a Secret Invasion-esque show that instead was a full-stop paranoia thriller following Nick Fury investigating a new unknown threat within world governments. Most importantly, the show would not be called Secret Invasion. Maybe at the end of the show you get the Rhodey reveal or the Ross reveal. And boom, that's 2 major issues solved. The show would, 1, now have a purpose within the larger MCU, which would be setting up an actual Secret Invasion, and 2, making the lackluster Rhodey reveal actually surprising and earned. It would have been an excellent jumping off point for a more straightforward adaptation of the event, with the Skrulls infiltrating the Avengers, S.H.I.E.L.D., S.W.O.R.D., and world governments. If we are lucky, we might even get Fantastic Four and X-Men, but it'd probably be a little too early. Instead, what we got was a rushed, condensed version of the event that let down not only MCU fans, but fans of the comic arc as well. It took something that could have been extremely interesting in a very different way to take the MCU post-Endgame, with maybe that being a string of high-budget, paranoia political thrillers starring the Avengers trying to figure out who's a Skrull and who's not, and just dumbed it down to the lowest possible form. Secret Invasion may have been dealt a pretty awful hand by being a TV show focusing only on Nick Fury and being an extremely loose adaptation, but arguably one of the biggest things stacked up against it was just the awful setup of the plot. There was nothing to even suggest this was coming outside of the Skrulls showing up in Captain Marvel, and then the announcement of the TV series. Not everything needs build-up in this universe, but a massive comic arc like this needs some groundwork so audiences are interested and the payoff is satisfying. And here, neither the setup nor the payoff worked at all for me. Part of the reason the show feels so frustrating by the end is that it just didn't lead to or resolve much of anything. The Skrulls are still on Earth. Gravik and Talos are dead. There are hundreds of thousands of people still being impersonated. We still don't know when Rhodey was replaced. I know it's likely Civil War, but then the director said maybe it's true, but the writers and directors of the MCU contradict each other all the time. Just look at the time travel interpretations in Endgame. We don't know when Ross was replaced. We didn't get any closure from the series. Nick Fury heads right back up into space to pop up in the Marvels, leaving him in the same spot he started, both physically and emotionally. No character feels changed here. No status quo has been shaken apart from Rhodes, and maybe Ross, we're not sure. All this build-up that has been happening throughout the series just falls so flat to me, and some of that can admittedly be attributed to Marvel's new obsession of weaving plot threads everywhere now. There's so much for casual audiences to follow with all these plot threads just introduced in Phase 4. Even comic book fans and hardcore MCU fans like myself have such a hard time keeping all this straight. Just think about it. Val and the Thunderbolts, Kang and the Multiverse, whatever the Eternals are doing, Shang-Chi's 10 rings in their origin, also Shang-Chi and what his sister is up to, what's up with that, incursions in Doctor Strange and Clea, Thor and the new Guardians in the cosmic area of the universe, Miss Marvel's bangles and their connection to everything, White Vision, Sharon Carter being a villain, the benefactor from Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sale of Avengers Tower, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and now the Skrulls being hidden on Earth and nobody cares. Gaia now has all these superpowers. The USA is at war with all aliens. Nick Fury leaves the Earth in the end? What? Now, obviously, all of that is a little bit of an exaggeration, but still, compare this to the first three phases. There were solo outings, but they all led to a common goal: establishing the Avengers as a team, then introducing the Infinity Stones, and then teasing Thanos and his quest to get them. In phases 4 and 5, there just seems to be a lot of clutter. Plot threads are everywhere, seemingly unconnected, and just kind of dropped after a while. Even though Marvel is ramping up the output of their content, the plot threads just seem to be resolved farther and farther away. Instead of waiting a few years for something to be resolved, you instead have to wait 5+ years for something as simple as the sale of Avengers Tower to get addressed. I know something like that might be such a small Easter egg for fans, but when you think about it, it just kind of gets frustrating and a bit odd that things like that haven't been set up. For example, you have a few main plot threads building throughout phases 4 and 5. Kang in the multiverse, then Val and the Thunderbolts, and the Skrull invasion. Now, I am exaggerating the Skrull invasion to be a bit of a big plot thread because honestly, it's not. This is just for the sake of my argument. Two of those have the potential to be massive universe affecting events, and one will most likely just be a big Earth event. My point is that it should be awesome to see all these comic arcs adapted to live action within the MCU, but for some reason, it's just not. The remaining plot threads from the show won't go anywhere, and as much of a bummer as that is, it might be for the best. Secret Invasion feels so disconnected from the current MCU storylines, it feels alien, no pun intended. How does the Skrull invasion connect to the multiverse? How does it connect to Kang? How does it connect to Val and the Thunderbolts? Setting up two events at the same time is such a weird story structure. Marvel needs to build up Kang and the Secret Wars to make people excited and interested for the future. Just look at current feedback now. People just don't care about Kang and don't care about the Secret Wars. They're just interested in the cameos and things coming back from the past. Instead, Marvel introduces this Skrull invasion that most likely won't go anywhere. There are zero projects announced in the future where the Skrulls would pop up. Sure, Rhodey will be in Armor Wars, and I hope we get some time in that movie to focus on him dealing with losing years of his life. But where would we see the Skrulls next? Where will Sonya and Gaia pop up? Will Nick Fury even reference the events of Secret Invasion, where his good friend of 30 years gave up his life in vain to help somebody who just declared war on his people? My gut answer is just a resounding no. Again, there are no projects where this will fit organically. We might get a throwaway line in the Marvels, but when that movie is focused on the three main leads in a universe and planet-hopping film, I don't have any expectations for a Nick Fury side plot where he addresses the horrifying events of Secret Invasion and how he just left everyone there on Earth to fend for themselves. The US declaring war with all aliens might come up in Captain America Brave New World, or even factor into an X-Men plotline down the road as the starting point for all the mutant hate and vitriol. But as of right now, the ending of the show just baffles me, as is the writing and treatment of the main characters. Speaking of absurd treatment, the way the show writes Nick Fury is just so awkward to me. Ever since the first episode, his characterization just felt so off for some reason. I've been saying that since the beginning. For somebody who is supposed to be the spy, he is just so washed up in this series, it's frustrating. I admire and I recognize what they attempted to do with his character here, making him feel the loss of time and effort from the snap and his subsequent return. What happens when the person who knows everything about everyone vanishes for years and comes back to a world that's completely changed? How do we as an audience feel when we see some of the skeletons in Nick Fury's closet? These are some decent, honestly kind of good ideas, but the execution and the writing is just so bland, it's painful. The majority of interactions Nick Fury has on the show are just so miserable. I get it, he's washed up, he's having a rough go of it, but the way he treats every single character on the show, especially Talos, just rubbed me the wrong way and paints Nick Fury as so unlikable. He treats Talos like his own personal Winter Soldier, dispatching him at will and barking orders at him, all while sulking and handing Talos backhanded comments as if they aren't in a life-threatening situation, and Talos handed Nick Fury his career. In episode 2, Talos reveals that there are a million Skrulls living on Earth. Naturally, Fury doesn't take too kindly to this and kicks him out.
They're here. Who's here? All of us. Wait, whoa. You're telling me there's a million Skrulls walking amongst us right now? Have you lost your reptilian-ass mind?
At first, I was like, okay, that makes sense. However, after the series unfolds, you see Nick Fury was just being such a dickhead the whole time. With the revelation that he gave up on searching for a world for the Skrulls to go and live. He lied to them for years and used them for his own personal gain for his career. This revelation could and should have flipped the series on its head, showing us a darker side of Nick Fury and some of his mistakes. Instead, he just shrugs it off and bullies Talos some more. That really bothered me, especially since I was really enjoying their dynamic for the most part. And to me, it was the highlight of the show. Seeing Nick Fury and Talos interact as two old men who are washed up, honestly, it kind of helped ease some of the pain. Nick Fury goes out of his way to be so unlikable in the show, it made it hard for me to root for him in any situation. In the season finale, when he's just getting absolutely mollywopped by Gravik, I was cheering for Gravik to just kill Nick Fury and get on with it. Don't worry, I'll get to the finale soon. That's a tiny bit of how much I dislike this finale. The show portrays Nick as a grumpy old man, down on his luck, never getting a win and treating people awfully. Always 1 or 2 or 5 steps behind Gravik, and for the man whose secrets have secrets, Nick Fury is just so weak here, and this might be the thing that bugged me most about the show. In past appearances, Nick Fury was always confident, smooth, and way ahead of the curve. There was always danger, but he kept a cool persona about him and treated his colleagues in a more kind and respectful manner. I don't know why this bothered me so much, but just watching him treat Talos so poorly week after week, and then finally being revealed that he lied to his friend the whole time, rubbed me the wrong way. Talos even died not knowing that Nick had lied to him and led him on to doing his dirty work while the Skrulls had to suffer. Nick's behavior was just continually frustrating, and his relationships in the series were either not focused on enough or completely unexplored. I enjoyed his relationship with Priscilla, but it wasn't explored enough. I don't understand her point in the series. I may be missing something. Their scenes were very well acted, but not very well written. If you have an opinion on this, let me know down in the comments. I might be an idiot. Even Fury's relationship with Gravik was so undercooked, it hurt. Fury watches Gravik murder 2 of his close friends, and then they have one more interaction, and the series is just over. Their quote-unquote interaction in the finale should have been at least 3 episodes earlier because it fleshes out Gravik's character more than anything else in the season. I actually enjoyed him saying that he wears the face of the first person he killed for Fury. That's so interesting. Why didn't we get that earlier? And I would love to see someone who's actually Nick Fury respond to that. I would have loved to see some more flashbacks of Nick and Gravik, or at least more scenes with Nick and Gravik. The protagonist and main antagonist spend a shockingly little amount of time sharing the screen together, and to top it all off, Nick Fury ends the series by abandoning the Skrulls once again and going back to Saber in space, leaving the Skrulls on Earth, which then inspires countless vigilantes to kill random people thinking they're Skrulls in a small 30-second montage at the end that was more interesting than half the stuff in the show. Nick Fury just tells the president, "Hey man, not cool bro, I won't do anything about it though, I'm out," and then just leaves. The race he promised to find a home for and protect, and he abandoned them yet again. Like I said above, this just makes the series genuinely meaningless when it comes to Nick Fury's arc. Nobody and nothing changes in the slightest, and the series is bookended by him going right back up to space. And before anyone says, hey, Ritson told him that he is hunting Nick Fury, how many times has Nick Fury been in trouble with the government or somebody insanely powerful, just brushed it off and kept going and kept fighting quite a few times? Fury's writing in the show is just appalling to me, and I was very much looking forward to Secret Invasion because of his character. But because of this, I was so disappointed walking away. This is when my Marvel bias starts to show. I have honestly enjoyed quite a few of the Marvel TV series released. Just like any other person, Loki is my favorite, but followed closely by Hawkeye, and the others just kind of fall in line. I do think Werewolf by Night is phenomenal, heavily underrated. People need to watch that. Holy crap, it's amazing. I love horror. I love superheroes. Watch Werewolf by Night. One of the biggest complaints against the show is they're usually underwhelming, to put it kindly from what I read online, finales. Usually, I'm bothered, but not too bothered by the finales. There's only been 2 that have really bothered me. WandaVision and now Secret Invasion. Because after watching Secret Invasion, She-Hulk's finale and the criticisms it raises and pokes fun of are actually kind of funny. I didn't love the finale of She-Hulk, but after watching Secret Invasion, it is kind of funny to see Marvel just pull a friendly fire and shoot their teammate in the head. WandaVision's finale just decides to go the most basic route, and my controversial Marvel opinion is I don't like Agatha as a character or as a villain. She's too campy for the series, doesn't really do a whole lot, and doesn't add anything. Add that to Ralph Boner and the odd way the show wraps up, and I was not a fan of the finale. The other finales ranged from spectacular to underwhelming, but Secret Invasion's finale is just plain and simply bad. I stayed up late to watch it in eager anticipation, wondering how Nick Fury was going to outsmart Gravik, stop Rhodes, and save President Ritson. Surely he had to have some trick up his sleeve, a good excuse for his lackluster and lame behavior all season, and a great way to get justice for Maria Hill and Talos' deaths. Sonya, Gaia, and Priscilla would all factor in somehow, and it would wrap all up in a satisfying way while teasing what's to come. And of course, my staying up late was all in vain. It utterly failed. I hate to be this guy. As soon as I pulled up the finale on Disney Plus, saw the 38-minute runtime, I got a sinking feeling. I literally said out loud,
I've made a huge mistake.
it's ridiculous that Marvel still holds to this 6-episode format and shortens the episodes as the season continues. The show has essentially become a 3.5-hour movie, at which point they should either commit to the show or commit to the movie. That's besides the point, a video for another day. The finale to Secret Invasion was a jumbled, confusing mess which resorted to resolving major plot points from this grounded in tone, alien invasion political spy thriller to a poor CGI battle involving characters stealing powers from the MCU characters far and wide. The finale of Secret Invasion might be one of the worst pieces of MCU content I have ever seen. As much as I dislike Black Widow, Thor Love and Thunder, and parts of She-Hulk, this might be my MCU 9/11. It is just so poorly written and full of plot holes, devoid of any fun, any intrigue, any interest. It blows my mind that it didn't get flagged on its way to Kevin Feige's office and just throttled with notes by him. But then again, there are comments from director Ali Selim, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, that Feige had the idea for the Super Skrull fight, so at this point I am just not sure what to think. Regardless, the show steering away from any superhero action or characters and making it a big point not to include any Avengers or overpowered heroes apart from Colonel Rhodes, and then immediately backtracking that in the finale for some big flying punches with people who wear CGI and have different powers. It feels so hypocritical, and it's kind of a cop-out. It's not even the worst piece of writing either, when the show has built up a conflict between Fury and Gravik the whole series, only to send Gaia to fight Gravik in place of Fury in the finale. I am honestly not 100% against that idea, because I believe that Gaia should also have some justice for Talos' death, but the audience was robbed of any conclusion with Fury and Gravik's conflict. Gravik's conversation with Fury, Gaia, is something that should have happened between Fury and Gravik many episodes ago. Of course, this is after Gravik ordered Skrull Rhodes to try and get President Ritson to nuke the Skrull base, which is where the Super Skrull machine is, presumably the only Super Skrull machine. The one that Gravik needs to use the Avengers' DNA to inject himself with in order to gain those powers. Yeah, that one, the one that could possibly get nuked at any moment by orders from Ritson, who is being coerced by Rhodes, who is working for Gravik. Just so convoluted for no reason, and it doesn't make any sense. The whole finale is just oddly written and convoluted and overall feels so rushed. What if Gravik killed Fury/Gaia and just dumped her body outside the Super Skrull machine? What if he had some of his henchmen capture her or restrain her while he used the machine alone and then killed her and waged war on the world? It is just all so full of plot holes, it does not work. This is all planned by Nick Fury, and the Gaia reveal is supposed to shock the viewer and make us think, wow, no way Nick planned this. I can't believe it, he did it again. For me, I just started laughing. I was shocked they wrote that, filmed it, and everyone patted each other on the back and said, yep, this is the one, this is it. We're taking it all the way to the bank. Nick Fury, who has contingency plans to assemble the Avengers in 2012, who brings a helicarrier to Sokovia, summoned Captain Marvel for the snap. That same dude did this. Sure, his plans aren't always foolproof. This has to be the worst one by far. I know that Marvel villains and plotlines aren't exactly airtight. There are lots of great villains and reveals in the MCU that work really well and elevate the stories that they're in. As much as I wanted to love Gravik and have him join the ranks of villains like Thanos, Vulture, Zemo, Killmonger, Wenwu, and Loki, Kingsley Ben-Adir just isn't given the same level of material as the villains I mentioned before. The writing in the show, and especially the finale, just did not work at all for me. Another example, Fury says he isn't calling the Avengers because it could get too dangerous if a Skrull stole their identity. Imagine the havoc that a Hulk Skrull could wreak on the Earth. Well, not the best excuse, I thought to myself. Yeah, that's not too bad. Obviously, the Avengers aren't in it for budget and story reasons. Same as to why the X-Men didn't pop up in a Wolverine solo series to help him fight Sabretooth or Silver Samurai, although I'm sure something like that has happened before. I haven't read every comic known to man. and he gives the harvested DNA to Gaia, pats her on the back, and sends her off to Gravik and the Super Skrull machine. So instead of having some of these shape-shifting aliens possibly take over the identity of Hulk, Doctor Strange, or Captain America, there could have been two shape-shifting aliens with the powers of Hulk, Doctor Strange, Captain America, Drax, Ebony Maw, Captain Marvel, Ghost, Winter Soldier, just to name a few. Now, there's only one working with Sonya, so I guess that's better. I know that Fury said it was personal and he couldn't call the Avengers, but it still amazes me the writers kept that, especially when Fury wasn't even the one to face off against Gravik, which means it's not personal. They never interact after that. Add that to the absolutely atrocious CGI in the final fight. The Drax arm will haunt me for the rest of my life. And the whole thing is just so underwhelming. The finale disappointed me more than I could imagine, with no surprising reveals or character payoffs. Of course, no reveal is needed, but when the show is about aliens infiltrating characters on Earth, I would hopefully expect some surprising reveals. There were opportunities at the end, with Gaia finding that massive Skrull hideout pod. Not sure what that was, but there was opportunities for some fun stuff there, and they just didn't take it. Finally, speaking of missed opportunities, this show is full of them. For me, the biggest one that was missing was a genuinely surprising Skrull reveal. I don't want to be that guy, but I called Rhodey being a Skrull as soon as Don Cheadle was cast in the show. The only existing superhero or Avenger in the show, somebody who wouldn't ruffle some feathers if done correctly. It wasn't done correctly. But also is a pretty big side character we followed since the beginning of the MCU. The only issue is that it was so obvious. It's the most obvious reveal in the entire MCU. I'm sorry, if you were surprised by Rhodey being a Skrull, you might be under the age of 10. My issue with Rhodey being a Skrull really leans into one of my last issues with the series overall. It just took the least interesting route possible. Every single time they had an opportunity to do something cool, unique, or interesting, they take the safest, most basic vanilla route possible. Of all the heroes, having Rhodey be a Skrull is so basic. Like I mentioned before, it falls flat, and in a world where there's so many rich characters to pull from, there's so many more to do and have be Skrulls instead. I'll once again play devil's advocate for a second. I won't throw out any big name suggestions because as much as I love writing, as much as I love the MCU, I'm not going to act like I'm some big writer who could write a massive plot twist for in a universe like the MCU. You would risk shortchanging character development in favor of shock value. For example, if Sam Wilson was revealed to be a Skrull in Secret Invasion, you rob him of his character development in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and also the end of Endgame. Another example is Bucky. He might be one you can get away with, but he has a few moments with Sam, especially in Falcon and Winter Soldier, that personally I wouldn't want to get rid of. That's where your problem lies. These characters are so fleshed out and all of their appearances spread out over so many movies and shows that pulling the rug out from the audience and getting a aha moment can make a lot of the development for the characters feel so meaningless. Take the big reveal. Colonel Rhodes is a Skrull. If some of the comments from the filmmakers are to be believed, he was replaced in Civil War. As of right now, with no Armor Wars, I hate this idea. It removes the 5 years he had working with the Avengers during the blip, and most importantly, his tearful goodbye to Tony Stark, his best friend. They could be able to make it up a little if they lean into Rhodes getting replaced and all the ramifications from that event really hard in Secret Wars, but overall I just don't like it. Now back to my criticism. If you are confined to use the characters from Secret Invasion, why not just lean to the premise and have Fury be a Skrull? It's interesting. It's a new, unique route to go. It's an opportunity that you should jump on. There were some rumors floating around before the show aired that Nick Fury would be revealed to be a Skrull, and the real Nick was in the shadows working against Gravik, while his Skrull self was fighting with Talos on the front lines. The idea of Nick Fury, the master spy, the person whose secrets have secrets, the person who has a million plans for things, having a Skrull working for him, mimicking him, is a much better and a much more satisfying reveal for the show overall. It's not perfectly clean, as the dynamic between Fury's wife will be a lot more different and weird, but it would explain a lot of Fury's out-of-character behavior for the show. We've seen it before in the post-credit scene for No Way Home, but I think it could work here too. Have a small wardrobe difference for the two of them to differentiate somehow. Give something that eagle-eyed viewers could pick up on, and it would give the show a very interesting dynamic. It would be a great mid to late season twist. A big reveal could be what was needed to kick the last half of the season into high gear. You can keep the Rhodey twist as well to make it feel more like an actual invasion. Just write it better, please. Also, the whole Skrull reveal on TV from episode 4 goes nowhere. I would have liked longer episodes with more runtime, dedicated to how this world sees the Skrulls and how regular people react to events like this in the MCU. People see a Skrull on TV, someone who can shapeshift, change identity, change into anyone it could be, and they don't explore that. A show that did this so well was The Last of Us on Max. The first two episodes at least had fantastic cold opens that gave some background to the virus and fleshed out the main plot lines. It was intense, it was scary, it added a lot more depth to this world that we were getting introduced to. I think a cold open or two would have done a lot for the show, displaying how civilians react to major events and changes in the MCU. Aliens in the MCU is a regular Tuesday at this point, but seeing them react to shapeshifters would have helped flesh out the world and plot a lot more. One more complaint that I have is outside of Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn, the cast just feels wasted. Specifically, Emilia Clarke, Kingsley Benadir, and Dermot Mulroney. Dermot Mulroney just feels like an afterthought in this show, especially when half his lines contain the words Colonel Rhodes. Granted, he's not the biggest star on the planet, but I mean, after the success of Scream 6, I would have thought that maybe they'd boost him up with some of those $1 million reshoots that they did. And $1 million is an understatement. It's like $100 million. Emilia Clarke and Kingsley Benadir don't get any standout moments in the show, and Gravik kills two established MCU characters. Those should be standout moments. I do enjoy his monologue in the finale, but it's undercut by weird shot choices, bad ADR, and the horrible plot inconveniences. His plan to infiltrate and overthrow the humans starts decently enough, especially in today's era of social media, conflicting reports in the news. It is honestly not that far-fetched to believe that something like this could happen in the MCU, but like I mentioned above, his plan falls apart so bad in the finale. I don't have any clue why he stayed at the Skrull base after telling Rhodes to have President Ritson bomb it. And honestly, the whole plan hinges on Nick Fury not telling anybody about the Skrulls' existence. It's just handled so weird, and it highlights the show's poor writing and plot conveniences. As far as Emilia Clarke goes, I feel like she also didn't get any big moments to shine this season. Her most memorable scene for me was when she finds out her mother died, and that was it. The final fight is memorable for all the wrong reasons, and honestly, I don't see an actress like Emilia Clarke coming back to the franchise happily after Secret Invasion's poor reception, which is a bummer because Clarke can be very charismatic and likable, and is by no means an awful actress. If I'm being honest, every actor and actress in the show, again, feels like they're giving 100% of their performance. Nobody feels like they're phoning it in. And I enjoyed a lot of the quieter, more dramatic sequences like Fury and Talos on the train, and also Fury's conversation with, quote, Rhodey. It's not Rhodey, but you know. Seeing Nick Fury have these conversations and talk about his family history reminded me a lot of his conversation with Steve Rogers in The Winter Soldier about his grandpa. And anything that is remotely close to Winter Soldier is an easy plus in my book. I'm sure that Samuel L. Jackson was excited to have a show dedicated to giving depth and character to Nick Fury after 15 years of playing the character. Ben Mendelsohn is obviously having a ton of fun here, and Talos was easily my favorite part of this series. His dynamic with Fury, although it was a big love-hate thing for me, it felt like Fury was just written to be so unlikable because of his interactions with Talos. We are supposed to believe that Talos, once a general in the Skrull army, just sits there and takes the abuse from Fury. It just felt so weird. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have these fun little moments between the two of them, talking about history, joking with each other, going on missions together. The whole thing just felt like Fury is just taking out all his anger and frustration about the blip and his life on Talos, and there is zero payoff to that if that is the case. Talos dies, and Fury just forgets about him. It's so weird and out of place, especially after getting multiple scenes of Fury mourning Coulson in the original Avengers movie. But in a 6-episode TV show, we can't get any scenes of him mourning another friend of 30 years. Side note, they need to add more episodes and make the episodes longer than 40 minutes. Although Talos wasn't a massive character, it was weird to see him go and then just have a single scene of his daughter remembering him. Again, just more missed opportunities. Most likely because the series was 6 episodes long, with the runtime being anywhere from 34 to 54 minutes per episode, and the runtime decreasing every single episode. Secret Invasion is sadly another misfire from the MCU, getting roped into the normal Disney Plus issues. While I personally was hoping for more, it was most likely doomed from the start by taking a wide-level comic event and stuffing it into a short 6-episode TV series focusing only on a few established MCU characters. For example, there are 6 characters that have been in the MCU before. If we remove characters that are only in one episode, we get 3. I won't really count Ross because he gets like one line in the finale. The director Ali Selim also said he doesn't want to please fans or make them happy with the series. In my opinion, He's half right. The fans are what made Marvel popular. They are what made the MCU able to be what it is today. They made it into a box office juggernaut, the most successful franchise on planet Earth. Creatives shouldn't force in fan service and cameos and heavy-handed Easter eggs to please every rabid fan, because that's impossible. Instead, they should focus on telling a good story first and then naturally bring in the fan service to those who have loved the characters involved. But Secret Invasion is a show I think would have benefited from fan service, cameos, and reveals. The very nature of a secret invasion is something that I think would have helped to have cameos, reveals, and fan service in it. You don't want to see a show, Secret Invasion, where no one is a Skrull. Everyone's a human, you don't get any reveals. It's just not interesting. However, looking forward into the future of the MCU, I'm not too sure if they'll keep doing Disney Plus series. At least, not live action anyways. We do have Loki Season 2, Echo, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, the Agatha show, and the Wakanda series coming up. But past that, I can't really see too many more Disney Plus series coming out. And honestly, I think that's a good thing. The shows have been getting non-stop criticism for the last 2.5 years about everything, but mainly length. Let's face it, the 6 episode, less than an hour show format is just not working. The shows start out interesting and then get very muddled and rush full speed to a quick finale, leaving most viewers burned and the story underdeveloped. WandaVision and Loki felt like the only TV shows to actually work, because WandaVision had 9 episodes, and even though I'm not the biggest fan of that show, people tend to like it, so I'll give it points for that. And Loki actually had a good story that can fit in 6 episodes. Hawkeye was great, and I love that show, but I do think the last 2 episodes are a little rushed, a little mixed bag, but overall, the show is one of my favorite things to come out of the MCU past Endgame. The rest of the live action shows left things to be desired, and it almost always is related to length. Secret Invasion honestly might be the straw that broke the camel's back. At first, nobody was talking about the show, but as the series went on, the discourse got louder and louder, and the vast majority is overwhelmingly negative, almost like people tuned in to see how bad it could get, or saw the reactions on social media and didn't believe their eyes. Hopefully, in the future, Marvel can hone in on their TV shows, producing more long-form content like Daredevil Born Again, and taking their time with those shows. Sadly, it might be too late to change the format of shows like Echo, Ironheart, or Agatha, but after those shows, I think it's so obvious that Marvel needs to shake up a lot with their TV department. Focusing on smaller scale, more character-driven long-form stories could do wonders for audiences who would be interested in seeing characters who normally wouldn't get the spotlight on the silver screen. They should also steer far, far, far away from adapting large comic events to TV shows, as they are nearly guaranteed to be disappointments. To sum this long video up, Secret Invasion was, in my opinion, one of the MCU's biggest misfires. Coming from somebody who loves comics, loves almost everything the MCU has put out, the show fell flat on its face in almost every aspect for me. Not only did it fall into the usual Disney Plus pitfalls of poor CGI, too many characters, muddled storylines, and a very rushed ending, it also featured some of the worst writing that the MCU has seen thus far. The show is riddled with plot holes, completely dropped the ball with the character of Nick Fury, and wasted almost every other character in the show. The new characters introduced are bland or generic, with the exception of Sonya Falsworth, and the returning characters feel like afterthoughts to the series. Although every actor here brings their A game, I really wish it was in a different series or film. Telling a story that should be a widespread phase-long event is probably the show's biggest mistake, and the whole series feels meaningless by the time you get to the overwhelmingly disappointing finales. To me, this show is one of the MCU's biggest failures, and I bet they won't touch on a lot of the story threads or events for the long, long time. I was really burned on this series, and I'm gonna give Secret Invasion like a 1.5 out of 10. I do not recommend watching this at all. As time has gone on, the series has fallen further and further from grace for me, settling neatly at the bottom of my MCU ranking, as I don't think there's any point to watch maybe the first 2 episodes to see just the show completely shoot itself in the head in the last 4 episodes. If you're still watching here at the end, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree with my very harsh assessment of Secret Invasion, or if you think it's better than most people say. If you like me doing more of these long-form reviews or essays when movie seasons get slow, please let me know. I would love to do some more and get them out much, much quicker next time. I was moving, I had no Wi-Fi, it took me forever to write the script, etc., etc. But if there's something you'd like me to review in a more long-form way, let me know. I'm actually kind of interested to do this, and I had a lot of fun writing this script. In the meantime, guys, I'm Carter Walker, and have a great rest of your day.